At LDNRBS, we have a very, 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 very special guest in the building. Like family to LDNRBS for sure. Here from the very start, Adam Pugh. I said let's give him a hug, on the.
And can I just say, me and Adam are matching today. We are mustard gang today.
Like the sun, literally. Yeah. So, before we obviously get into any interview, I have to say my little annoying story beforehand. I met Adam a long time ago now. We actually met when wasn't that long ago. It's probably about 2 years ago, maybe. A little bit longer.
More than 3.
Yeah. So I was in my little creative space. I was trying to figure out where the hell I was creatively. I was trying to figure out what I was doing. That's Adam smiling at me right now. But I obviously started doing this podcast. And I was like, yeah, let me just get everybody that I know that's creative. And let's just do a podcast and just let it go. Now, I was seeing a lot of what Adam was doing actively. Now, he was an ex-policeman and also an activist at the time and doing well. Now, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, let me just invite him up and let's have a conversation. It could work well for this podcast. The podcast didn't even end up happening. Like, there was just loads of stuff that stopped the podcast from happening. But yet, me and Adam ended up speaking on the first time of meeting each other for a good, hour and a half to 2 hours about life. Literally. Connected with this human being. Literally sat in the car and spoke. Now, I go round to say this. I wish, you would have got into the conversation to say the least.
You know what Ty's like when he starts talking?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I didn't even say nothing.
The whole time it was just me speaking.
You can't say nothing.
But thus far, since then, he has done a lot of stuff. He's influenced a whole lot. He also just recently, we got to give him another clap, guys, because he just won an award also.
What was that?
Award. He just won literally the London Leadership and Peace Award was put to Adam Pugh.
Listen, I don't know how or why. I can't imagine. That was a mad surprise, but no, it was nice.
Okay, so for those who don't know you, who are you?
Who am I? My name is Adam Pugh. I'm an ex-police officer. People label me as an activist, an agitator, troublemaker, whatever. But I'm just someone with a message, just trying to push something positive.
What would you say your message is overall?
So obviously we've done a couple. This is number 3 now. Third time up in the building. Yeah. So this is like homecoming for me. This 100%. Is like where it all began. And this was one of the first interviews that I did after I left the Met. So I think for me, obviously when I left the police, I was angry. I was upset. I saw a lot of injustice. I saw a lot of institutional racism. And I had something to say. So really, I just started talking. I was on my social media, and then off the back of that, there was loads of interviews. Came here, different outlets hollered. So really, I guess what I'm trying to use is I'm trying to use my platform to just push for justice, to try and address the issues of race, particularly around areas of policing and that kind of thing.
It's ironic because when you first started your campaign as such on racism and things as such, it kind of felt like you were before you. Well, it does now. It feels like you're before your time. Because at that time you were speaking about it, not a lot of people were on that topic. Whereas now it's everywhere. It's common knowledge to talk about racism and injustice in many ways. So tell me about how you feel like it's come full circle and now it is really popular knowledge to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it's in some ways it's frustrating because it's like that particular topic now has kind of almost become, I want to say trivial. Fashionable, but a lot of people are talking about it and people are making careers of it, people are making money off it, people that aren't really actually interested in finding solutions to the problems. You know what I mean? It's just it's a career tool, it's a stepping stone. But I think the reality is people are kind of waking up to it here. So I think particularly issues of police brutality, historically they've always been framed as being an American issue. Like when Black Lives Matter first kind of took off here, a lot of people used to say, "Oh, but that's an American issue. It doesn't really happen here, or it's not as bad as in America." And everyone could name you the Eric Garners, the Tamir Rices, the Trayvon Martins, but no one could actually tell you any of the names of the people that are being killed here by the police in the UK. And I think that as time has gone on, obviously Mark Duggan was quite a high profile one, but even in the last year we had Rashawn Charles, we had Edson DaCosta, we had Kevin Clark. There's been a whole lot more, and I think social media has played a big part in that, in kind of bringing that to the forefront and raising awareness. So people are more aware of that now, and I think taking a bit more of an interest in this, and it's good to see. people are more aware.
I'd really like to learn more about your time in the police force. So what made you get into the police force in the first place?
All right. So what made me get into the police force in the first place? The reason why I joined, trying not to go over old things that we've been over before, but was ultimately a desire to make a difference. And ultimately that was the reason why I left. So I think for me, growing up in South London, in Deptford, on Pepys Estate, or just on the outskirts of the Pepys Estate, I could very much see the way I was treated differently, or the way that my experience was different to my friends, to my black peers, purely because of the colour of our skin. I could see that, I could witness that, and I think that naively at that time, I felt like if you want to make a difference, you have to be the difference, go in and kind of make a change within. So that was the motivating factor for me to join in the first instance. I never liked the police. If you said to me, join the police, I would have laughed at you, but I felt like that was the best way to do it. But I realised very quickly that wasn't gonna happen. So.
And what made you, want to stand up and really kind of fight for the justice, especially, institutionalized racism? Because that's for someone obviously who might not experience it on the forehead in the terms of obviously being a person of colour, that's quite a bold and a brave thing to do, because you can get, not everybody, but there are cases where people like yourself who will stand up for people of colour, they get so much backlash for it, and it's like...
It's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, it's so bold and brave. So what made you do that?
I don't think it is brave. I really don't. I say that to say I don't think that any of us that are in this position deserve any kind of recognition or applause or accolades. Like the award, great, that's wonderful, but actually that award really shouldn't have been given to me. I'm not saying anything different to what hundreds of thousands of other people haven't. Really. But what other people aren't saying, but they're not listened to. So, for example, a lot of my peers that are, whether it be Nigerian or Jamaican or whatever, that are saying these things, have been shut down or told you're playing the race card, or you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know what it's like to be a police officer. So for some reason, now I've come out of them, and cool. So it's part of why I'm being listened to is because of that. But make no mistake about it, it's because I'm a white guy that's saying it. Because I'm not saying anything different, and it's those voices are the ones that need to be heard. So if I can use that privilege and that platform that I have to be able to amplify those voices, then I think that's important. And it's not a brave thing to do. I think that's just the right thing to do. Do you know what I mean?
So could I say, sorry, because obviously I haven't heard from you before. So if you could tell me the story and where it started, where it triggered you or you saw something, could you go through that story that made you feel this way and want to speak out? Was it during you being a police officer, or was it you growing up? Like, was there injustice?
I think I always had a desire or
to
like
speak out.
A burning passion against injustice, and I think growing up in quite a poor, deprived area, a rough estate, I could see that around me. I could see the way that my friend, like my best friend, has been stopped more times in 1 week by the police than I have in my entire life. I can't ignore that. So I think for me, a lot of what kind of drove me was seeing that injustice in my community, in the world that I live in and that I grew up in.
Did you ever have anyone tell you have no idea and try and shut you up based on your colour of your skin?
Good question.
From who? Yeah, because
I felt like there's times that I felt so frustrated, and I had friends, I'm like, no, I don't want this to happen, and I would speak up, and people tell me, you don't know how that feels. You could never speak for us. And there was moments, and I felt like, okay, maybe I'm not able to express how I felt.
I think there's an element of truth to that. Is as a white man, I'm never going to be able to talk on behalf of somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Because that's not my experience. And I would hope, I know that I definitely haven't always got it right along the way, but I would hope that that's not what I do, or not what I endeavour to do. It's not about speaking on behalf of. It's about using your privilege to be able to amplify those other voices, and about being more of a megaphone than a mouth. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
white people really think that finally acknowledging that racism exists in Britain is a groundbreaking revelation.
That's crazy.
It's almost 2019.
Yes,
now that's a
crazy
quote that you have recently said out in the public.
Oh,
that was you. That wasn't even me. I know it sounded like it was me, but that was a quote that you said.
Own it, Ty, man. Bloody own it.
It's like, who said that?
No, it wasn't me. It was you. Yeah. So tell me about that.
I mean, once you remember it.
I mean, it's 2018, right? And we are still having conversations in the media about, does racism exist? We're still, we've had report after report after report. We've had all of these different things about racial bias. There was a thing the other day I forget the government statistic body, but that came out and said that something like 45% of white people, 45% don't acknowledge that racism exists. Or no, sorry, 40% do acknowledge that racism exists, but they believe that white people are actually treated more severely in terms of discrimination than black and minority groups. And I'm like, you people are mad.
Yeah.
Like, so to acknowledge that this thing exists is not groundbreaking. Like, all it takes is for us to this is what I'm saying. The things that I'm saying are not profound. Like, all you have to do is just shut up and listen.
But do you think it helped growing up where you grew up in your area? Because I felt the same, honestly, because where I work, let's just say I work in a corporate, and when I'm speaking to a man who is of middle age, he's white, his upbringing is Surrey. Now I don't know how it is in Surrey, but he seems to think racism doesn't exist. And I look at him like, how? And then if I link it to football, he even comes to tell me that Sterling is bringing it on himself. So how can we try
burning over
how do
here,
we approach those people? So you see, we have to kind of not think like them, but understand where they're coming from in order to change their thinking. How would you approach someone like that who told you it does not exist, and you know roughly their background has never experienced that?
You know what, I feel like in 2018 there's really no excuse for anyone to hold that
because
position.
There is media.
Do you know what I mean? There's media, there's social media, and like I said, it's about listening. Do you know what I mean? We've heard enough of these stories now for people to be able to listen to the stories that take place. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's fine to say that, all right, cool, we had an upbringing in a certain area, so due to proximity and due to life experience, you might have a certain level of understanding. But even if you're living in a predominantly white area, that really isn't an excuse. And there's plenty of books that you can read. There's plenty of things that you can, do you know what I mean, listen to educate yourself. I really don't think that that's an excuse.
So do you think ignorance is bliss?
My question to that is,
that's how they look at it.
Do white people care?
I think there's a good point in that caring element.
They care about whiteness.
Yeah.
They care about preserving whiteness.
Yes.
Because ultimately, regardless of where you sit on that fence, this is not about separating ourselves as good white people and bad white people, but irrespective of that, we all benefit from our whiteness. So once you acknowledge that, either you're going to do something you're going to use your privilege to try and dismantle that and to achieve equality for everyone, or you're going to bury your head in the sand, because it's more comfortable to do that. Because the minute that you have to start sacrificing your privilege, that's not really a pleasant thing to do. And for some white people, that sacrifice feels like oppression.
Wow. That is a very good point.
I would say that it's not easy to speak out, especially as a white person speaking out on behalf of, not necessarily on behalf of black people, but for black people. So I wanted to ask, what challenges or what struggles have you had to face, just generally?
I can chime in just before he does. Just before he answers this, I can chime in.
Calm, right?
Yeah, I know he doesn't want me to, but anyway, I've got to say, just to give an outsider's point, he'll come out of what he thinks too, but I've even seen the backlash that Adam Pugh as a person gets from many people and known people. So, I'll let you go.
But why?
Why? Yeah.
I want to know what it is. What is your what are you facing? What
is it? Like, who are you getting it from?
So do you know what? This year has been a much better year. Last year I had crazy amount of death threats. That was the year that someone started.
You're joking?
I had death threats. I had, particularly with regards to my son as well. So I got a lot of racist abuse towards my son.
And we've just met the cuteness.
I know.
Right? And for me, when it crosses that line, that's when it gets a little bit like, all right, cool. Now that's a boundary. Backlash. I'm blocked by a lot of police accounts. My own local police, Lewisham, have got me blocked, which is ironic.
Why?
I guess because as an ex-police officer or an ex-volunteer police officer in the Met that is now talking about the things that I'm talking about, it's embarrassing. They don't like it, or they take it as a personal critique or a personal attack of them. So there's been a huge backlash from that.
So is there really freedom of speech? Does that really exist, freedom of speech?
Yeah, I mean,
without having,
it exists, but it comes with consequences, right? But that's part of it.
So you've experienced death threats to yourself and your child.
I had a crowdfunder to have me deported. £100,000, right? Remember that? £100,000. They started.
Sorry, wait, what?
This is real.
I'm so confused.
This is real.
Someone started a crowdfunding campaign to have me deported to where I don't know.
Deported to where?
£100,000. I was like, hey, listen, if you raise that, I'll start packing now. Like, where are we gonna go? Like, it's I don't know what plane ticket that was for, but they never hit it. So here I am. Sorry, guys.
And do you ever get when they contact you, what is the most craziest things that they say, in a sense of, do they try and stop your word from spreading? And is it based just on racism? So do you think it comes from white people? Is that what's happening? I'm trying to understand this.
It depends on what I'm talking about. So if we're talking about race, if we're talking about whiteness, if we're talking about these things, then it's usually people called Gary on Twitter that have got Union Jacks in their bios or whatever.
And support UKIP.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. If we're talking about issues of policing, then it's usually anonymous police accounts. Yeah. You know, I mean, there's a lot of the ones that Ty has seen. Big up Peter Kirker.
Of course.
So yeah.
And you still carry on.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
and what does make you want to carry on? Because for me, that's really degrading. That would literally
because these issues still exist and people are dying. I mean, this really is a life or death situation. We've had literally almost. So we were filming. In fact, when Ty and I met, we just started filming for a film called 1500 and Counting, which was about the 1,500 people that have died in Britain, either in custody or following police contact since 1990. Now we fast forward, we're almost at 1,700 now, right? The film's coming out in March, I believe, next year, March 19th. Big up Sienna and Troy for directing that. Now, 1,700 people have died in this country, and not one police officer has ever been prosecuted, even in cases, and there have been many, where it has been ruled an unlawful killing. So these are issues that are taking place in our society, and these biases, these prejudices that we have, that we're seeing rise to the surface, particularly, I mean, after Brexit and everything else that is going on, it costs people their lives.
I'm surprised you even say 1,700, because I would have never have known that. That's really news to me. I didn't realise there's been no coverage on that at all. At all.
Now, you've also spoken about Brexit there. Now, I have a big disconnection with this thing that we call Brexit. Now, I want to try and inviting you up here too was key, because I think you can almost be a middle ground to getting people to understand more, I guess. What do you feel like our generation as such should feel towards, or what do you personally feel like they should do when it comes to Brexit, and formulating your own personal life around it?
In terms of, what do you mean? In
terms of, in general, how you can influence it, how you can influence what is going to happen in our politics.
It's a good question. It's not one that I'm sure I even have the answer for. I feel like we're right around the corner from Brexit now. It's looking like it's going to happen. It's not looking like there's going to be another referendum where it's going to be stopped, and it's nonsense. And I guess the one thing that I'm learning is, as much as I hate this system, which is riddled with injustice and racism and corruption and everything else, sometimes you do have to infiltrate it, and you do have to engage with it to some capacity. I completely understand. I would never knock anyone who's like, do you know what, I'm not going to vote. If you say you vote Conservative, or if you say you vote UKIP, I'm going to tell you to fuck yourself. But if
we're a bit early, you know this.
Sorry, it's my bad. Apologies. But I would never knock anyone that says they're not going to vote, because I understand that frustration. But there does come a point where we do have to engage, and we do have to kind of get involved. And if young people feel passionate and they want to get involved in politics, cool, do that.
It's kind of like, it makes me think to say that we young people do need to get involved in politics, because effectively it's our generation, it's our word. I feel like, especially using Brexit as an example, you know, the fact that it's even happened, that was to me down to
our negligence.
Old, middle-aged, predominantly white people brainwashing the whole of the country to think this was going to be good for us. And when you think about it, this is going to make an impact for something that's going to happen. This is going to be quite permanent, and in 40-50 years the people that have made this change are going to be dead. So I guess, what would you advise, or what would you say, Adam, are the things that we can do as young people to really get involved in politics and just start trying to make a change for it?
I can't tell you with regards to getting involved in politics. What I would say is that I don't look to this system in order to be able to help or solve the issues that we have. And I think that there are issues that we have within our own communities that we need to take control of, and that we need to be getting more involved on a really kind of smaller and local level to be able to solve our own issues, because they're not here for us. It doesn't matter whether it's Conservative, Labour, it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, they're two wings of the same bird. They're not for us, and they're always going to seek to protect the interests of the elite and those at the top. So we've got to look after ourselves, man.
Beautiful answer, to say the least.
So let's go away from activism. Let's learn more about you. So what do you like to do? What's your... No, it's, this is LDNRBS. We like to get to know people. So, besides, standing up for people's rights and all of that great stuff, what else do you like to do?
Do you know what the funny thing is there's not much time for a whole lot else. So I'm a dad. My son is going to be turning 3 in February. I work full time, so between working full time and doing the campaigning that I do on the side, and trying to be a dad and have a family life, there's not really room for a whole lot else. I listen to a lot of music. I like to read. I like to learn. I like to be kind of expanding my brain.
What's a good read?
What's a good read? Well, if you haven't read Rennie Edo-Lodge's Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race.
I have heard
need to buy this book.
How is it good?
Is it good?
Yeah, it's an incredible book, and I think a lot of the literature around race has tended to be from an American perspective, which is great, because they're much further along in the conversation than we are, but there is a lot of contextualizing that we have to do. So we're seeing a lot of writing here now. Rennie's Afua Hirsch has written a book called British. That's an amazing book. So yeah, there's plenty of decent books out there, decent reads.
Okay.
Carla's just gone bestseller.
Amazing.
On the
Genius.
spoils list. So yeah, I haven't read that yet, but need to grab that.
Adam Pugh, guys.
I know.
As always. I want to also ask you personally, where do you ideally feel like your influence will take you in the next 5 years?
I'd like to say not jail. I know where I don't want it to take me. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to take me. I just know that I'm not going to go away. I'd love to go away. I don't want to talk about these things. I really don't. It's not pleasant. It's uncomfortable. When we did the documentary in February on Stop and Search, the Met Commissioner had to go and give an account to the Home Affairs Select Committee, and basically said racism doesn't exist. It's not a thing.
Amazing.
I mean, the ignorance of it's just offensive, to be honest. It's ridiculous.
And in the statement that I issued, it was, look, I don't want to find myself on BBC News or on Sky News or whatever it is talking about these things. Like, if you want me to go away, all you need to do is acknowledge that this problem exists, begin addressing it, and listen to these people. It's not my voice that matters.
I mean, look, I'm sorry. I know you're like, why did I win an award? But just hearing you speak like this is exactly why you did. Because as much as you think, this how everyone should be speaking. I mean, I sometimes get taken back, and I can sometimes feel, I don't know, I'm a bit scared. So just that you being courageous is honestly very applauding. I mean, because I don't know. I'm listening to what you're speaking. I'm like, I wish I had that. I wish I had it in me. Sometimes I wish I have it in me, but I easily get affected if I feel like I don't understand the pain and I feel like I can't speak for them. But then now you've just literally made me understand that I don't need to try and speak for them. I can speak for what I know, and I know that's wrong, and that's what I need to do.
And you can challenge those issues, whether it be in your family, whether it be in your workplace, when you hear an inappropriate joke.
And that's what I feel like I do, yes.
And that's where a lot of that discomfort kind of takes place. I mean, when the receptionist says, what do you think of that Meghan Markle? Do you know what I mean? And you kind of feel it. That's where the work is that we need to be doing, and as white people we need to be addressing other white people and having those conversations.
That's what we need. I think, especially the kind of black community, we need more white people to be like that.
How important do you think Meghan Markle will be in the position she is? How important do you think that is to society?
If she's able to speak her mind, that is the thing. Do you think I
think representation is important. I think it's important for young black women and women of colour to be able to look and see, okay, cool, I mean, that's not out of reach. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, do I believe it's gonna make a whole lot of difference? Probably not. But I do think it is important for people to be able to look. It's the same with having a black president.
I think it's nice to be able to just see that we have a mixed race princess. Like,
I think the issues
but
come
they think
in.
that is the solution now.
Right, so the issues come in where we say, okay, well, we've got a mixed
so that's it,
mixed
no
race
racism.
princess or a black president. The problem now doesn't exist anymore. And it's
that's
like,
what we can't stop thinking.
There's much more work to be done.
There is.
Ironically, I've always said that I feel like asking for acceptance is always the issue. I always feel like we should be able to, we should force we are who we are.
Course,
We've got to take the respect rather than asking for it.
Yes.
But LDNRBS, Adam Pugh, anything last you want to say to your people and your socials too?
Do you know what I want to say? Big up Jen. Because that whole conversation is so important, man. Like, especially as guys, we don't talk about mental health.
Definitely not.
I mean, we really don't. So that was really important.
Big up you, Jen. That was
big up you, Jen. Yeah, for real.
Adam Pugh, give him a clap out here, guys.
We'll see yourself.
Family to LDNRBS.